20 years ago, I was driving back from Bayers Lake to Halifax on the 102 highway. I was sitting in my burgundy van, feeling the worst in my whole life. My body felt numb from physical pain, and my mind was enshrouded by dark, painful, seemingly impenetrable clouds. I felt completely and hopelessly stuck in the darkest place of my life. I pushed the gas pedal down as far as it would go, took off my seatbelt and picked the bridge pillar on the right side of the highway that looked sturdy enough to hold up to a deadly collision. I was ready to die. I still remember this moment as if it was today, and I shudder thinking of it. What happened? Just 2 years earlier, I was working 14-hour days in my big dermatology and naturopathic office in Germany, trying to help as many patients as possible in the short amount of time, on average 5 or 10 minutes, that the German health system allotted to them. After work, I was coming home, only to work some more in my ex-husband's family practice, participate in night shifts, house calls, weekend and holiday, as well as emergency duty. I had no time for myself, for my own health, and was feeling more and more frustrated, stressed out and burned out. Something had to give, and for me it was my back. One day it started. A sharp pain went through my back as I sat down on my office chair. "Oh," I said to myself, "now you're one of the 80% of the population suffering from back pain." And I continued working away. On the evening of this day, I hardly could tie my shoelaces, but I drove home and went straight to bed. The next morning when I woke up, I couldn't move. The pain was excruciating. My ex-husband called his ambulance friends, and I was carried down the steps and put in hospital. I stayed there for 4 weeks, learning to walk again. I must say the experience of not only switching roles and being a patient, but being completely helpless and bedridden, thankfully just for a week, and dependent on others for the basic functions of life, and yes, I mean peeing and pooping while laying in bed, was humbling, embarrassing, and devastating. I stayed hopeful through all this and entered a rehab program, slowly rebuilding my strength. I decided to sell half of my practice to a partner. After some time, I started working again, first part-time, then slowly building up. And boom, it hit me again. Another disc slipped and I was back in bed again in renewed agony, physically and emotionally. This time, I gave up. I felt hopeless, stuck, trapped, and I felt my life was over. I decided to sell the rest of my practice and slipped in a deep depression. And for me, I had learned in my childhood to soothe emotional pain by eating, preferably sweets. And believe me, German cake is delicious. I was rudderless, not knowing what to do with myself and where to go in my life. Shortly after that, my ex-husband decided to commit suicide, and I was left sick with 2 teenage boys and immigration papers to Canada. You see, 3 years before that, we had started immigration procedures as we didn't want our boys to have to serve in the then compulsory German army. Life takes strange turns sometimes, and so I decided to come to Halifax. It was a turning point for good in my life, although at first it seemed to make things worse. Isolated, without friends or family, except 2 spoiled, demanding and unsupportive teenage boys, in physical and emotional pain, I felt stuck in a dark tunnel with no end in sight. That's when I took my van and started to drive around, when I ended up aiming at the bridge post. Obviously, I didn't hit it, or I wouldn't be here in front of you today. What happened? As I was aiming for the post, I heard a small, tiny inner voice in my gut telling me, "Christine, you don't want to die, you want to help. You have things to do with your life." I'm very grateful I listened to this inner voice, and with tears of desperation streaming down my face, and feeling like a failure, I couldn't even kill myself, I headed for the emergency room. I was very fortunate that the resident who saw me recognized the seriousness of my situation and admitted me to the Abbey Lane Mental Hospital. This is often considered the worst and lowest you can get to, but at this point it was a safe place for me, where I spent 4 weeks listening to John Denver music, waiting for the medication to kick in. It did after a while, and after another 6 weeks in the outpatient day treatment program, I was ready to continue the struggle on my own. And a struggle it was. I still was in the dark part of the tunnel. To really understand the tunnel metaphor, you need to know that the European mountains, where the more than a mile-long tunnels are, the tunnels are not straight, but have a bend at the end to avoid the drivers being blinded by the bright light at the end. When you drive into one of such tunnels, you see only the darkness at first. But then, a sudden turn, and the glaze of the southern sun brightens your spirit. As a child, we drove through tunnels like that many times, and I loved the surprising turn at the end and the sunshine awaiting us. Little did I know then that life has those sudden turns too. For me, the turn was making the decision to change. The decision to get back doing what I was passionate about all my life, which is and always was helping other people with their health and lives. I always have been a researcher, loved to read, learn new things, study and apply this knowledge to help my patients. Now, I also had a chock full of life experience to offer. But what could I do here in Canada? I pondered going back to Germany, but I had found the love of my life here in Halifax, and my dear husband was not suited at all for German life. I decided to search for options to fulfill my destiny here at my new home. I had tried to get a license to practice here, took the tests required and passed them, but couldn't do the residency they demanded because of my illnesses. Now it was too late. I tried different things, studied business administration, became an expert tax preparer, but these I couldn't feel passionate about as much as I tried. I am passionate about people, not money. I finally took a health coaching program and naively thought that was it. I discovered the hard way that the designation health coach doesn't pay your bills. But I rediscovered my passion for helping people with their own health and helping them honor their struggles as I honored and still honor my own. We all are on a learning and growing path, and I learned that this is okay. After adjusting my lifestyle, nutrition and supplements, as well as working on my thought patterns, I'm now happier than ever and barreling forward to the end of helping as many people as I can. I want to end this talk with a quote that I always say in my radio show and podcast. If you are stuck in a dark place, I want to tell you, there is a light at the end of the tunnel for you too.